and sunny and busy paddock here in Sebring because we are about to do the WEC 2023 season preview, where we're going to talk you through everything you need to know ahead of this absolutely incredible upcoming season. But there's far too much for me to talk through all by myself, so I am joined by WEC expert Sam Smith. Sam, what a season we have ahead of us, right?
The anticipation is absolutely huge for this season. I mean, sports cars is always up and down in terms of the manufacturers coming in and the grids, but this is a real boom time for sports cars. And I think having Ferrari, Cadillac, Porsche joining Peugeot and Toyota, the reigning champions, it's just going to be immense. I mean, there are more questions than answers, which is exactly what I love about this time of season.
And before we start looking into all of those questions, I want to talk through a little bit of the basics of the WEC for anyone who might be new to the championship. Because as you can see by the different coloured boards along the pit lane, we have 3 different classes here. We have the red for the Hypercar, blue for LMP2 and orange for LMGTE Am. What are the differences between these 3 classes, Sam?
Well, they're many and numerous, but to give you the headlines, the hypercars are essentially thoroughbred sports cars, built for racing, so big manufacturers, but you can also have non-hybrid entries, which we have with Glickenhaus. LMP2 is a junior prototype class, if you like, using Orica Gibson chassis and engine combinations, super competitive, really top privateer teams. LMGTE Am, you've got what I like to think is the spirit of endurance racing, which you've got gentlemen racers racing with professionals, and you get this mixed and muddled up race, which just becomes more and more fascinating towards the end of the event. So yeah, so much to look forward to in those 3 classes.
There's going to be some incredible tracks for them to be competing on along the way. Any highlights this season?
They're all highlights for me. I mean, Portimao is new, Portimao is completely new, so Mr. Da Costa and Mr. Albuquerque are going to be huge hometown heroes there. The interesting thing for me is the different durations of the races. So you've got 3 6-hour races, you've got an 8-hour race to finish in Bahrain, you've got 1,000 miles of Sebring here, and then of course the jewel in the crown, the Le Mans 24 Hours, which this year is the big one. That's why a lot of these big manufacturers are coming to compete at the 100th anniversary of Le Mans.
So first up we have the mighty Porsche, which returns to the top class. Currently no cars in their garage because they're all out on track taking a really big team picture, which is important. For what reason, Sam?
Well, this is such a special story. You've got 2 of the most iconic names in motorsport, Penske and Porsche, coming together. I mean, it's got history as well. Roger Penske made his one and only appearance at Le Mans in 1963, ironically in a Ferrari, but they've come together. This has been announced for some while now, and they've done quite a bit of testing. They debuted at Daytona a couple of months ago. I think looking at the car, the Porsche 963, it's such a fascinating composite of different partners and different technology as well. They're going to be using a MGU on the front, an electric MGU on the front, and they've got a twin-turbo V8 engine. So a really interesting package. And as well, you know, the drivers, some of them are coming back, some of them are new, some have transitioned from GT. So lots of different narratives within that story.
Right, you mentioned the drivers there, Kevin Estre, Michael Christensen, Andre Lotterer, lots of names for WEC fans who are familiar with the series to get excited about. Can you talk us through what their lineups are looking like?
Well, it's looking really strong. I mean, Andre Lotterer, one of the best sports car endurance drivers of his generation for sure. He's been away since 2019. He's kind of the return of the prodigal son in a way. Kevin Estre is super interesting. He's a champion in LMGTE Pro class with Michael Christensen, who's also driving in the car as well. There is no weak point in this lineup. It has got pretty much everything. So Dane Cameron is the sort of local hero here. He's racing with Porsche Penske as well. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how they utilise that strength in depth of their squad.
And we spoke to Kevin Estre earlier this week. Let's hear what he had to say.
Well, it's great to be part of the brand, part of this championship and in this new category on an anniversary year. I have to say, last time we celebrated an anniversary year was the 70th anniversary, and we won Le Mans. So good memories about these years. Well, I like the design. It just represents well the Porsche brand with the black, the white and the red. This is what, yeah, the colors which come to my mind when I think about Porsche, about the logo. And it's classy. It has some aggressivity with the red, but just, yeah, that's the best way to describe Porsche, I think, with the colors. It's a great car. It was my company car last year, so it's a fantastic 0 to 100 kph, 2.75 seconds, so it's quick. Then, yeah, great grip for a safety car. It's very important. Very good lighting. I think they did a good job for us to see the cars. When it's sunny and bright like this is no problem, but in the night we need to see them and recognize them. And yeah, I think Yannick is having fun driving them and sometimes being a little sideways.
Let's move on to Ferrari, who returned to the top class of endurance racing after 50 years away. We spoke to GTE Pro World Champion James Calado on his thoughts on the top manufacturer's return.
To step up to the Hypercar class is truly an amazing feeling, because obviously the cars are a lot more quicker. Let's say the performance is higher, the downforce is extremely high, especially high-speed corners. There's a lot more to deal with in terms of electronics. We have obviously an electric motor in the front as well as the rear combustion. So it feels amazing. Every time I get in the car, it feels great. And obviously, I feel like I'm in a true Ferrari. It really feels like an amazing balance, and I'm looking forward to the start of the season. Something I've noticed a lot more is the fan interaction. I'm looking forward to Le Mans and especially Monza, because I feel that there's going to be a lot of red shirts in the grandstands, but no extra pressure. We'll do the job and we'll do the best we can. Obviously, we had an amazing battle in GTE with Michael and Kevin and the 92 car. They're obviously in LMH with us. They've made that step too. So bring it on. I mean, let's have some more battles. Let's enjoy the racing. Let's enjoy the show. It's not just them. There's many competitive manufacturers and drivers, which is nice to see in this championship, and I think it's going to be a great show.
Big expectations for the team this season then. Can you tell me a little bit more about the car that they're going to be taking to the track with this year to fulfill those huge expectations?
Well, it sure is pretty, but you wouldn't expect anything else from Ferrari.
Oh, come on, their cars are stunning normally, like really?
This is another one. I mean, it's a lovely looking car. It's a V6 engine, which is super interesting for the reason that's been chosen. I think in terms of expectation, you mentioned that it's 50 years since they were last in the top class. It's actually 60 years since they last won Le Mans. So you're talking a big tranche of time there for a manufacturer that has just got so much history running through it. And I think the interesting thing about it is their driver choice as well. They stay true to some of their top LMGTE Pro race winners and champions with James Calado and his partner Alessandro Pierguidi. They're joined by Antonio Giovinazzi.
A very well-known name even outside of the wet paddock.
Of course he is, yeah. All his time at Alfa Romeo in Formula One. That was an interesting choice. And then you've got the young guns. You've got Nicholas Nielsen and you've got Antonio Fuoco. I think talent-wise are two of the best drivers that WEC has produced, I think, in recent seasons. So, yeah, you know, lots of expectation. They're going to have to be given time because, you know, the public debut was last weekend at the prologue. So, yeah, I anticipate, though, they're going to be quick. I mean, testing times were said to be good, but of course the development curve for these hypercars is so vast, they've still got a bit of work to do.
And as we've been walking along here, we've been passing some AF Corse powered teams. Can you tell me a little bit about the relationship between Maranello and AF Corse?
Well, super successful, of course. Multiple race wins, multiple championships, operational and technical level, it just gels, it just works, and that's absolutely what you need in endurance racing and sports car racing. So I think it's, you know, if it was a marriage, it would be a very strong, solid one, and that's what you need in endurance racing. So yeah, I mean, I don't think they would have considered doing it without AF Corse for sure.
And another team that I think is in a similar boat to Ferrari with a lot of new things to learn this year are Cadillac. Let's hear what El Bamba had to say about their challenges going into this season.
It's fantastic to be back in the top category of WEC. you know, when they announced the rules of LMDH and Le Mans Hypercar as well, it was definitely a clear goal of mine to return to the top. Last time in 2017 was really great to win the World Championship, so now it's great to be back in the same position with the same chance with a different manufacturer to, you know, go for the ultimate in sports car racing, which is the World Championship. I mean, the new Cadillac's incredible. I drove the DPI last year and that was already cool, the sound was good, but you know, I was lucky enough to be the first driver ever to drive the LMDH car for Cadillac, and the first time we dropped the clutch and heard the sound, it was incredible. You know, and inside the car it really roars, and the power and the torque is really, really nice, honestly. I can't wait to hear it when we go to Le Mans. To go down the back straight on the Mulsanne and to hear this car, you know, through the trees and stuff like that, I think it's going to be pretty special for the fans.
Sam, let's go into some more detail. Can you tell me a little bit more about their setup? What is their car for the 2023 season?
Well, obviously they're synonymous with the growling, roaring V8.
Oh, you can hear it too.
You can, yeah, you can hear it in your dreams. Yeah, I mean, they've obviously got a V8 engine. They've got a great driver lineup in Alex Lynn, Earl Bamber, two former Sebring winners, of course, and Richard Westbrook, who brings some real experience. He's been driving international motorsport for the last 25 years. So all round a really nice package there. And actually with the testing that we saw last week at the prologue, it's quick. You know, they've got a quick car, looks super aggressive as well. It's got a very different, distinctive front to the car. So yeah, great to see Cadillac in hypercar. You know, it's now nearly 25 years since Cadillac were last at Le Mans, so it was a bit overdue that they were coming back, and I think, you know, especially here at Sebring, the home fans are going to be rooting for the hometown heroes.
And I think now is about a good time to move on to some of last season's challenger. Let's talk Peugeot. What do you think their chances are going into this season? They've had the off-season to get some testing done. Oh, let's quickly get out of the way of these golf buggies. It is chaos down here with these.
It's actually more competitive with the golf buggies here at Sebring sometimes than it is out on the track. But
Peugeot, off-season, what do we think? Do you think they will have had time to learn from last year's challenges?
That's the big hope. I mean, the pace of the car was evident in those races at Monza, Fuji and Bahrain, but it was inevitable that there was going to be some teething problems from a reliability perspective. They've not tested here at Sebring, so they're coming here with a little bit to find out about the track. So, I mean, they've got the credentials to be right up there. You know, they've got the drivers. This car, this fascinating car, which doesn't have the traditional rear wing. Again, you know, there's so many fan favourites in hypercar. This is probably another one. Obviously, Le Mans going to be a huge deal for them.
French mark, of course. And we actually spoke to one of their drivers about the challenges the team will be facing this year.
I feel like we've made gradual steps non-stop from day one of the program till today. I mean, it's not been one of those cases where we had a car and today we have a completely different car. This is our first full season in WEC now, you know, and we've really just looked at every single day as a progressive step and an opportunity to improve. And now we're here in Sebring, which we know will be a very big challenge, but we know it's also a great preparation to continue that improvement curve looking at Le Mans. I mean, time is always an advantage, right? I mean, I can't say maybe it's an advantage against a certain person, but it's an advantage to where we were a few months ago. As I said, every opportunity we have to continue to improve, we take. We're definitely more ready than we were last year, but we know we have to be humble. There's still a long way to go. We have some very fierce opponents. I mean, we have Toyota that's won Le Mans the last 5 years, I think. And we know it's not a small task, but this is the Centenary Le Mans coming up. This is our first full hypercar season, looking at a golden era sports car racing, and we plan to make Peugeot have an impact in that.
Moving on to Toyota Gazoo Racing, the reigning champions with the most experience in this paddock. They're going to be the team to beat this year, Sam, aren't they?
You'd have to say so. I don't think they'll like it when they're called favourites, but I think a lot of people are considering them to be the favourites and to add to their massive trophy cabinet. They've been very loyal to the WEC over the years and they've reaped the rewards of some outstanding programmes. They've gone for a slight evolution of their previous car, so there's no new car for them. But of course what they have is this massive experience of operational, technical, sporting sort of excellence which won the championships for the past few seasons. So yeah, I think it is reasonable to say that they're the favourites for this season. And as we saw in the prologue, they're extremely quick as well. And
I'm going to cut you off there, Sam, because this feels like a great time to actually start talking about the privateers and Glickenhaus back in the baby blue for this year.
Absolutely. You know, we've used the word or the phrase fan favourites, haven't we?
Several times now.
Everyone's a fan favourite in Hypercar. But the Glickenhaus, you know, what a story that is. They haven't raced since Monza last season, a race they should have arguably have won. But they've got a lot of continuity in the driver lineup, Ryan Briscoe, Romain Dumas. So they've, and Olivier Pla, of course, so they've got a really strong axis there. And I think, you know, in terms of what they can achieve this year, they're probably going to be in a race with the Floyd Vanwall team in some respects. They're a non-hybrid entity. But again, a great addition to the paddock and obviously extremely charismatic and an interesting team.
Although I saw Jim Glickenhaus speaking on social media recently about how that team is being outspent 10-1. Do you think there's going to be a real challenge for them going into this year when they're going up against these huge manufacturers?
Of course it is. Yeah, it's. I mean, the fact that they are actually at the front of the grid and they've been racing at the front in the last season or so is immense. And the fact that they got podium finish at Le Mans last year is incredible too. But I think sports cars is always, when you get big manufacturers in it, you do get a slight discrepancy in what is achievable for different manufacturers. But if ever there is a giant killer, then Glickenhaus is probably
has to be the team.
Yeah.
And last by no means least, Vanwall, the newest team to the grid.
Yeah. An
exciting entry, I'd say. There's a real, I hate to steal your phrase, but they are already fan favourites. The sound of that car is utterly phenomenal. What are their odds like this season?
Well, you're not going to miss it, are you? What a livery that is. You're going to see that from space. But yeah, a great story. I mean, the Vanwall name and the Vanwall operation is well known from the 1950s. So Sterling Moss won 6 Grand Prix in a Vanwall. So you've got this really interesting return to international motorsport for a great British name. In terms of the drivers that they put in that car, super interesting as well. You've got Tom Dillman, who is an established sports car driver, a very well respected one as well. You've also got Jacques Villeneuve, the 1997 Formula One world champion, and a guy who raced for Peugeot as well back in the first decade of the century. And what a story that is. Jacques Villeneuve returning to full-time competition.
Story.
So what's achievable? Again, they've done some testing last season. They need more. I think that's evident. But I think once they get up to what is probably the level that they're hoping for with this car and developing it to the stage of where it can have a little nibble at some of the manufacturers, I think that's the hope. And then obviously longer term, once they kick on, then maybe even more could be achieved.
Moving on from Hypercar, LMP2 looks to be, quite frankly, as competitive as ever, as Jota look to retain their crown. They're going to have a Porsche 963 from, what, Spa onwards is the plan?
That's right, yeah. The gold, they're going for gold, literally. What a livery.
With that beautiful livery,
yeah,
oh my goodness.
It's stunning, isn't it? Absolutely stunning.
And of course, we've got a few other teams still featuring LMP2, United Autosport being one of them. Who else should we be looking out for in that LMP2 class?
Well, I mean, strength in depth, it's just as strong, if not stronger, than last season. United Autosports, WRT, Prema, and of course the aforementioned Jota as well. Stellar lineups across the board. You know, some really good young professional drivers in there coming up through junior single seaters as well. So it's impossible to predict. It always is LMP2.
Always brings the drama.
Yeah,
always brings the chaos.
it does. I mean, the racing is just fantastic. I mean, to get a race win by more than 20 seconds is almost unknown in LMP2 over an endurance test. So I think Prema look good to me. I think they've got a really strong lineup. It's going to be super interesting to see how Dorian Pin gets on, because she's highly rated and in testing was super quick. Robert Kubica is always worth a look, super spectacular as well. So yeah, lots to look forward to. I mean, if the Hypercar class whets the appetite, then LMP2 is, I don't know, it's like the sort of the cherry on top of the cake from a prototype perspective.
And we have to talk about something that the core fans love about endurance racing, the LMGTE Ams, and everything that comes with it. What have we got to look forward to in that class this year?
Hell of a lot, Alexa. 14 season entrants. The reigning champion Ben Keating has moved teams again. He seems to do it every season.
It's going to be incredibly exciting there, though.
Yeah.
There's a lot to look at with him.
But it's super interesting because Keating's going to be driving a Corvette in the LMGTE Am Class, and I just think in terms of let's say the gentleman racer, the sports racer, let's call them. You know, he's one of the best. He's proved to be one of the best. So I think that axis of the Corvette racing squad is going to be interesting. I think the Iron Dames are going to be worth watching again. They've switched from Ferrari to Porsche for this year. So Michel Gatting, Sarah Bovy, and also Rahel Frey, multiple podiums and pole positions last season. Can they kick on and get that elusive first win? I think there's an expectation that they can really do it this season.
I'd love to see it from them. I'd love to see it. And that is it for our 2023 season preview. There is so much excitement ahead, so much to look forward to. New drivers, new tracks, and all of the action is about to start unfolding. Make sure you're following along. We have a brand spanking new WEC app for you to download. And make sure you let us know what your thoughts are all across our social channels. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you, Sam, for joining us. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.